Larry, welcome to the show, brother. I want to help you fix the world. I'm excited about this 10-part series. We're going to do probably at least one or two a week for sure until we get them all done. You guys are going to be glued. The information that he's about to release is going to absolutely mind shatter you. And anyway, tell us what you got, man. I'm gonna share the screen here because this is going to be basically a presentation so that people can follow along. And tell me if you can see my screen.
I can.
You can. Great. Great.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the floor and I'm going to shut the hell up. I'm going to try. Sometimes
Well, you chime in anytime you want.
Okay, my brother.
Specific topic.
Yeah.
Atmospheric water, free energy. This is two parts. But what we're going to do is, as this financial collapse begins to impede upon us, we're going to do a number of other shows. Maybe 10, it may be 12, it may be 15. I'm working on them right now. But this specific topic is part one and part two. And I'm so excited. I've known about all of this for years, for decades, but there was no point in telling you, no point in debunking the lies behind climate change, because if you can't provide a solution, you might as well keep your mouth shut.
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Gold and silver right down below. We are the ones that can get you the gold and silver directly to your door, okay, at the cheapest price. Don't even waste your time looking for a cheaper price. It doesn't exist. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Well, good afternoon, folks. We got Larry Ballard. Larry Ballard is my co-host. He has decided to work specifically with us. It's going to be awesome because this is going to be a 10-part series of something that's very exciting. See, folks, if we want to manifest NESARA and GESARA, we, the people who have, you know what, okay, have to literally step up to the line and really wear, you know, your what. And the bottom line becomes that we have to take the bull by the horns and make stuff happen. That's how we get NESARA, GESARA to manifest. That's how we get, you know, these guys to go away. Because once we win the war on all fronts, where we have the answers for free energy technology, water production, how to clean up the atmosphere, then they have no choice but to go away. And we inherit those things that, you know, the 6,000 patents. So we have to push the envelope. He's got the answer. This is a 10-part series. Larry, welcome to the show, brother. I want to help you fix the world. I'm excited about this 10-part series. We're going to do probably at least one or two a week for sure until we get them all done. You guys are going to be glued. The information that he's about to release is going to absolutely mind shatter you. And anyway, tell us what you got, man. I'm gonna share the screen here because this is going to be basically a presentation so that people can follow along. And tell me if you can see my screen.
I can.
You can. Great. Great. Yes. I'm going to give you the floor and I'm going to shut the hell up. I'm going to try. Sometimes
well, you chime in anytime you want.
Okay, my brother.
Specific topic.
Yeah.
Atmospheric water, free energy. This is two parts. But what we're going to do is, as this financial collapse begins to impede upon us, we're going to do a number of other shows. Maybe 10, it may be 12, it may be 15. I'm working on them right now. But this specific topic is part one and part two. And I'm so excited. I've known about all of this for years, for decades, but there was no point in telling you, no point in debunking the lies behind climate change, because if you can't provide a solution, you might as well keep your mouth shut. But with the Chevron deal that was just announced, and the Supreme Court said basically this. They said, we're going to give the people of America through the court system the ability to change regulations that have kept those patents from us. So what they did in the past is, if our wonderful legislators put a law out that was actually written, I would say, by the bureaucrats representing the corporations, and it was in any way viewed to be ambiguous, then it was given to the corporate bureaucrats, unelected corporate bureaucrats, to interpret, to write a regulation that had the power of law. And here's what they generally would do. They would say, all of these free energy technologies in the energy field that would threaten hundreds of trillions of dollars of the grid's money, and basically, oh, those are national security issues. Well, what we're going to find is they weren't national security issues. They were representing the financial interest of the global financial elite. And now those are going to be able to be overturned. So we can do the show and we can debunk everything they've told you about the Green New Deal and all of the lies that are inherent in it. So let's go on and get to it.
Next slide.
Go to the next slide, if you would. Unless you got a comment, Mel.
Nope.
All right,
I
I pulled this because I think this really starts us off with with the truth. This is from the Hopi Indians. It's a pictograph. That red line shows a potential extinction event, but the green line goes on and on and on and on. We're at a tipping point. If we do nothing, we're going to be on that red line. If we stand up and do the things that I'm going to tell you about in this video, we're going to avert a mass extinction, the sixth mass extinction of this planet. And more than that, we're going to get free patents and free energy. And more than that, we're going to change the world. You're not going to recognize what the world looks like in 50 years if we get this technology. We're not going to have an extinction. God is about to open our eyes, and the truth is going to set us free. And the technology that we need to do this is here now. Let's go to the next slide, if you would. There's 3 boxes on the next slide. I'm going to read them as if they're statements, but then I'm going to tell you that every one of them, none of them can be achieved unless we get this free energy. The global elite are about to fall, and when they do, everything will change for the better. Now, that's absolutely a truth, but they have to fall, and we have to help them fall. We will avert an ecological crisis that threatens the planet's sixth mass extinction. We're in the midst of it right now. It can be averted if we stand up and demand our rights. And mankind will finally learn to live in harmony with each other and the planet that sustains us. We are intentionally kept in a period of lack. We are intentionally pitted against one another. We are intentionally functioning in an environment that creates fear. And we live in a world created by a God who is omnipresent. There is no lack except for what they're keeping from us. We live in an abundant world, and you're going to find out how we get access to it. Next slide, please. Mel, I'm going to ask you a question. You see 6 pictures. This is somewhat of a quandary. How is it that I see a cornfield that's dried up next to a river that's dried up, next to a city that's flooded from the same river that's dried up, and the largest hurricane in the world, an earthquake, and a volcano? The world, everything that can shake is being shaken. Can you explain any of that? And how in particular is it that we have drought and flood occurring at the same time in the same geographical locations on the planet?
I think God is shaking the earth and trying to grab our attention, say, guys, you better pay attention, because this whole thing could go away, or we can have Valhalla, heaven on earth, with a flat tax and the Sarajasara and all the technologies and all the life extension technologies and the flying machines and. And I think this is the hand of God, our Lord and Savior, basically saying, hey, pay attention. That's what I'm saying.
There's
That's what I'm
a
seeing.
scientific answer to the question I asked you.
Please.
I'm only going to touch on it briefly here. We're going to go into it in detail in part 2. Here's what's happening. The climate is warming. As the climate warms, more water is evaporated from the oceans, but the air is warmer. So it's passing over areas where it used to drop its rain, holding them, causing droughts. And then it eventually drops its rain. But look, then it's super saturated and we have floods. So we have a cycle of drought and flood, drought and flood, drought and flood. Now think about what that means. It means that cornfield is not producing, and neither are the agricultural areas in the flood zone, meaning that we have an absolutely catastrophic cycle that is going to affect the food chain, and that's going to eventually, if not corrected, lead to a global famine. And there's more to that than even that, because we got a clean water shortage of monumental proportion. And why is this the biggest tornado ever? Because the more energy we have up in the air, the more energy there is to feed those tornadoes. And the earthquakes and the volcanic eruptions that you see are part of a 12,000-year cycle that's affecting the core of the earth. We're going to get into all of that in detail in part 2. I just want you to see we have an ecological problem here that is threatening, in particular, our food production. Let's go on to the next slide, if you would. Now, we've had these conversations, the pole's melting, the pole's not melting. What about the poor polar bears? Use your eyes, folks. Don't believe what the Lion News tells you. Don't believe what the pollsters tell you. Look at those pictures. You got a date of 1984 and 2016. You tell me that the North Pole ice cap isn't appreciably smaller now than it was in 84. This is your air conditioning system, folks. This controls something called the hydraulic system of the planet that cools and heats the planet. Cold air comes down from the North Pole, up from the South Pole, goes to the equator, circulates back, and that is what regulates the temperature of our seawater, which is in turn what regulates all of our weather patterns, and which is in turn is what is causing what you saw in that previous slide, cycles of drought and cycles of flood and imminent financial collapse precipitated by what? A global collapse of the agricultural system and famine. That's what's coming if we don't do something. The results of this drought are followed by a catastrophic collapse if we don't fix it. Let's go on to the next slide. You want to use your eyes again and see some more proof? Look at this. There's the Colorado River, then and now. The Euphrates, one of the greatest bread baskets in the entire world, is in jeopardy of drying up. Just look at those pictures. And the Bible says that the Euphrates River will dry up. Now go over to the right-hand side, and what you're going to see is a lot of blue. That's good, but you're going to see yellow and brown and red and fire engine red. And all of those areas that are red means that there is absolute drought. They're drought stricken. Those are areas that were previously sustainable for agriculture. And it happens that it's in the 40th latitude, and that is the grain belt of the world. And so we're drying up our aquifers here in the United States, the Great Plains Aquifer and the aquifer in California, and we're drying up the Colorado River, and that's just in the United States. Then look over to Europe, look at the Middle East, look at India, look at China. The world is being threatened by a catastrophic biblical level food shortage because of a shortage of water. We cannot fix this with any of the technology that the global elite are telling us is going to provide zero carbon emissions by 2050. But I'm going to give you some solutions that will tell you how we can avert this crisis. Mel, you got any comments to make before we go on?
Euphrates River, exactly. Tell the audience exactly where that is located.
The Euphrates River is down through the Middle East. It goes down through all of the Arab nations. And basically it goes through Egypt is the principal nation that most people are going to think of. And Egypt was an absolute food producing mecca in ancient times. And now look at it. Look at what's happening here. There are millions, billions of people that live along the course of the Euphrates River. That is going to impact a gigantic portion of the world. Here in the United States, we've only got about, 600 million people. In that region, there's well over 1.2 billion people that are going to be affected by what's happening. This is catastrophic. Let's go to the next slide. They're going to look similar, but we're really talking about something different now. We're not talking about what's under the land. We're talking about what's on top of the land. We're not talking about the aquifers. We're talking about the not enough rain falling on those areas causing desertification. So look at North Africa, look at almost all of Europe, the Middle East, the western half of the United States, almost all of Australia, and the bottom third of Africa and South America. The world is on fire. We are suffering desertification. And look at that box over there. There are approximately 1/3 of the planet's population that live in those regions that are threatened with starvation if we don't do something. Desertification is killing habitats, causing species extinction, and making previously arable land unfit for agriculture. The only thing you can say is biblical level famine. This is not a joke. They're lying to you. They talk about carbon. Yeah, carbon is a part of the problem, but this is much, much bigger, much more important, and much more fatal. Let's go to the next slide. And please, Mel, chime in anytime you want to.
Go ahead.
All
You're
right,
doing
what
well.
we're looking at here is we're looking at a place where we might have some solutions. We're looking at a cornfield that's flooded, one that's drying, and we're looking at the prophecy of Daniel about the thin cows and the fat cows. But now look down below, and with the current technology we have, we are wasting water like you can't believe. When I was born, there was the problems I'm describing didn't exist. The aquifers were full, the rivers were full, but we've had an increase in population from about 2 billion to 8 billion. And what that's done is increase the amount of water we pull from our aquifers or lakes and our rivers by a factor of 6. It's not that the hydrological cycle of the planet that brings the water from the oceans and brings it down to earth as rain has changed. It's that we're consuming more water and we're wasting that water irrigating with sprinklers that evaporate and with basins where we flood whole fields and basically waste mass amounts of water. Meanwhile, people are starving, and people are going to be starving even more if we don't fix this. We have the technology to fix this. And by the time we get to part 2, you'll understand exactly what that technology is and how important this video and the next one are. Let's go to the next slide and we'll look at the role of carbon. So carbon's a problem. Carbon's poisoning us. It's causing cancer. It's causing lung disease. It's polluting the air. It's causing greenhouse gas. But it's a minimal amount of the problem compared to the water crisis and compared to another problem that I'm going to discuss in a minute. I want to read you a quote from an executive at Chevron from 1977, the chief scientist, James Black. He says, present thinking holds man has a window of 15 years before the need for hard decisions regarding changing energy strategies becomes critical. I'm not good at math, but it seems like to me we passed 15 years up a long time ago. We're at a point of crisis right now. We're at a point where we are nearing the point of no return. I know people out there probably don't study science. I do. If that conveyor belt system that I talked about shuts down, here's what happens. And we're close to it happening. Then the currents no longer flow, the weather patterns are changed, and we go from heating to becoming one giant snowball. An ice age comes. We're at the point that if we don't do something in the next few years, we're going to shut down the entire ecological system of the planet. Now, that's more important than carbon. You see the magnitude of the problems that we have that they're not telling us about. They're the real problems. Carbon is just a distraction. There are shelved patents, some 6,000 of them that Mel was talking about when he opened the show. Many of them relate to absolutely free energy that can solve this problem and can change the world forever. We have to stand up and demand access to this technology, because if we don't, we're not going to have a planet and we're not going to be here. Let's go to the next slide, and I'm going to start diving into the lies about the technology that they've given us. Remember, they said they had 15 years to consider changing these technologies. They haven't changed them. We're still on the grid. We have nuclear. I used to work for Atomic Energy Canada. If a power plant goes nuclear, guess what? If it melts down, it's 1 million years of pollution. We're still belching out coal, and China is building coal factories faster than you can sneeze. And we're still using 100-year-old internal combustion technology, and we're going to replace it with what? Caustic lithium that is highly toxic? No. So basically, we've got, those are the lies. That's what they're doing is, and there's more to it even than that. So they're pumping out all this pollution, creating all that energy, and then pumping it through lines. And look up at the top. By the time it gets to us, whatever energy they produced, 66% of it is lost in transmission. An absolutely unsustainable, inefficient system. It makes us dependent on our overlords. It could cost potentially 1,000,000 years of pollution. It gives us carbon pollution, and highly toxic lithium is not the answer for the solutions going forward. Now we're going to go to their Green New Movement. If you go to the next slide, and I'm going to tell you that it is a lie every bit as much as what you just saw. What you see up here is the two principal solutions they're pushing to take us to the 2050 zero carbon emission plan. Well, wait a minute. That picture up above is from Texas, where my son lives, and they're de-icing a windmill. So if they can't even run windmills in Texas, how are they going to run them in North Dakota? How are they going to run them, in other places in the world that are cold most of the winter? And there's also a side effect. They kill the birds, and when they're in the water, they kill the marine life. So wind is not only inefficient and can only be used in some portions of the planet, but it kills marine life and it kills birds. And ultimately, all of the wind farms are what? Connected to the grid. And so they're telling it's clean energy. Wait a minute. They're still using coal plants to generate the steam, to create the electricity. They're still got us tied to the same old technology that's polluting, except now we're entering in additional pollutions into the environment. And then we go to solar. So we saw the biggest hurricane we've ever seen. So we're having bigger and bigger storms. So this is a field down below where all of those solar panels were destroyed. And then over to the far right is from California, where wind damage destroyed all of those. Those panels are highly toxic when they're put into the ground, as well as the lithium. So now we're polluting our soil with the byproduct of these technologies. We're killing animals, and we're still connected to the grid, still using coal power plants, still using nuclear, still using the old technology, still dependent on the grid, still wasting 65% of all the energy produced when there is an answer that will work. We just have to demand it. So comments before we go on, Mel?
No, but this is, I mean, a picture's worth a 1,000 words. These pictures are worth 1,000,000. Uh, it's unsustainable. I mean, the fact that the Democrats keep doubling down on stupidity is what blows my mind. And not to get off track, I'm going to make a prediction here. The level of health of this guy Biden, whether he's a clone, an actor, it doesn't matter, is deteriorating so fast at this point. Who is the guy that's responsible for a lot of this stuff for his and throughout his political career? That I don't think he's going to be running against Trump in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Never mind the fact that he doesn't even know, he's not even going to know that he's the president of the United States. He's not even going to know his own name. I predict 3 weeks at the very outside, Biden is out. Let's get to the next slide.
All right, so go on. So I just want to recoup what we had. I want to ask a question. Given what I've told you, do you think that green energy is a practical solution to current environmental crisis? It's unreliable, it's expensive, it kills birds, it kills fish. Solar requires silver, which we need drastically for other things other than inefficient solar panels. So, and basically, at some level, all of it has to be connected back to the grid. So we haven't made one step forward in solving our problem. It's non-viable solution, and it is environmentally, potentially even more unfriendly than the solutions that we've had for the last 100 years. Folks, they're lying to us. This is a misdirection, and in a minute, I'm going to tell you why they're putting this misdirection. They tell us a truth connected to a half-truth, connected to an out-and-out lie in order to deceive us, so we'll shut our mouths and think they're giving us something that's going to solve this. It in no way is going to solve it. It might even make it worse. Let's go on. Actually, I guess what I wanted to say next is in the next presentation. So I'm going to freelance here. So basically, what they are doing is telling us that we have a solution that is a non-solution, when what they're really doing is inflicting us with COVID and doing anything and everything they can do to create that mass extinction, to kill 7 billion of us useless eaters. Because I want you to think about this. If we had had this free energy 100 years ago, and we went from the horseless carriage to the Model T Ford, it would have been an easy transition. And now we are looking at hundreds of trillions of dollars of corporations that are going to have to be dismantled in order to bring life-saving, planet-saving technology to this planet. It is going to be highly disruptive. We have polluted the planet for 100 years. We're not going to fix this in a week or a month or a year or 10 years. This is going to take decades. And because of that, we have to do it now. There's absolute urgency. So you're going to get some explosions of truth, and I hope you'll stand up and we'll stand together, all 8 billion of us, and we'll take back this world. So if you're agreeing with what I say, I ask you, make this video go viral so we can save this planet. Now, if we go to the next slide, I want to go through some of the details of the lies of their global sustainable program for zero carbon emissions. So basically, no poverty. Wait a minute. It seems like to me that the economy of the world is in far worse shape than it was. But if we had free energy, let me let you see what might happen. I'm going to basically break into the supply chain and show you what you would have in terms of your cost for your consumables if we had free energy. The major cost of every product you buy, every consumer product, is energy. Let's look at the automobile because it's a fairly complicated supply chain item. So everything in this chain I'm going to delineate requires carbon. We're using diesel fuel and we're using the grid. So you want to manufacture a car, first you got to have a giant crane that digs tons, megatons of ore out of the pit. Then you got to load it into the biggest truck you've ever seen in your life. Then you got to transport it to a smelt where you have to raise it to about 4,500 degrees, which costs a heck of a lot of energy. Then you've got to transport it to the places it's going to be manufactured. In the instance of an automobile, that's about 120 different locations all around the world. And then you've got to manufacture it, which takes energy. And then you've got to transport it from those 120 locations to all the places that you're going to ship it for consumers to buy it. And then the consumers have to buy it and drive it to their homes. If we had free energy, the cost of every consumable on the planet would probably drop by 50%. And in the case of an automobile, it might drop by 60 or 70 or 80%. We can have free energy. It will change the world. So before I dig any deeper into this, Bill, do you have any comments to make?
Yeah, we're still driving an extension of a Model T Ford, and nobody's raising any questions. Nobody wants to make any waves. Nobody's saying, hey, how come we're not flying? Why are we still, subject to be scraping the earth like a bunch of turkeys? Why are we subject to laws and regulations that if we're speeding because we're late to work and we're going 12 miles over the speed limit, we're getting a speeding ticket? Why do we have to pay for parking space? Who are we paying? Who are the bosses of this planet? Obviously, it's not us. Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. No, don't. This is really important slide.
Okay.
So I want to read that stuff in the box. The global elite's true agenda is to distract us long enough to execute a mass genocide of 7 billion of us useless eaters as the answer to what they call sustainable resource development. So what they want to do is drive us into submission, and then they will bring out the free energy. Then they will give us the technology and all the patents. We don't have that time to wait. They're willing to take this planet to the brink of extinction. I want to delve into just a couple of more of the things over there that they tell us that they're going to give us. Zero hunger. How are they going to give us zero hunger when we're facing the greatest famine the world has ever seen because we have a critical shortage of water? Let's look on down. They're going to give us education. I don't think so. Anyway, folks, take this slide, dissect it, look at it, and you'll see that not one thing on there is achievable with the technology that we have. I want to go to number 14 before we leave, and that is life below the water. Well, listen to this, folks. Another one of those giant problems that's facing this planet and causing this extinction event is something that we didn't have when this cycle began 12,000 years ago. This is part of a solar cycle. Weren't stupid enough to have invented a product that is not biodegradable. In the oceans today, they say there are more nanoparticles of plastic that there are stars in the entire universe. And they're disrupting the entire ecological cycle of the planet because that plastic absorbs heat. And what it's doing is changing the natural air conditioning system of the planet and taking it from being an air conditioner to being a heater. There is the underlying problem of our current global catastrophe. So with the technology that we're going to be talking about in a minute, we have the ability to clean our oceans, to clean our water, and to clean our land. And if you'll just do a little exercise, go on the internet and look and see the sea life that's being killed. And I saw a picture the other day of a fish, of a whale. You know, a lot of the whales, they open their mouths and they bring in plankton. There's a beached whale. It was dead. And why was it dead? Because in that process of just eating, it had swallowed so much plastic that it killed it. We have to get that plastic out, and the technologies that I'm going to be talking about in a minute are the only solution, and they are not implementable if we don't have free energy. Let's go to the next slide now.
It sounds like you
So now we're
pushing. It sounds like you're pushing the envelope to really get to NESARA and JSARA. You know what blows me away, Larry, is the fact that when you bring up NESARA and JSARA, these are dumb, idiot people who don't stop for 1 second to even read a document about NESARA, JSARA, to see what it is. What is the hoopla? Instead of getting educated and go to a website like QFS1776.com, where we laid it all out. It's all there. Even the original document of NESARA, JSARA lives at QFS 1776. Instead of doing that, they make fun of us. And they're completely uneducated on a flat tax system, a free energy system, a cleaning the environment system, a system that makes so much sense. They make fun of us, which means to me, not only are you stupid and you don't want to educate yourself, but you want to stay in the old world, which makes you quadruple stupid. Now let's go to the next slide.
Okay. Well, Mel, we're both kind of pumped up. This is important. And I'll comment on your comment.
Yeah.
NESARA is nothing new. If you know history, I'm an historian. It is nothing more than what we had when this nation was founded. There was no federal income tax, no property tax, none of the taxes that Mel enumerated. We had a simple flat tax. It worked. And all we're doing with NESARA is putting back into place that which made America the greatest nation the world has ever seen. We're killing the system that is killing us and putting back in the system that made us great. So this is this next slide is just kind of a review pictorially of what I was talking about a minute ago. The whole basis of everything that's affecting our climate is a 12,000 year repeating cycle. But it's worse this time. It's threatening the planet much worse than before, because before we didn't have the carbon and pollution. We didn't have, very importantly, the plastic nanoparticles that are in the ocean that are causing the ocean to heat. So this time our aquifers and our rivers are drying up, and we didn't have 8 billion people. We had about 500 million to 1 billion people. So the whole landscape of this cycle is drastically different than the previous cycles, and it is in fact threatening the very existence of this planet and everything that lives on it. Life, totally. Humans, insects, plants, everything are at jeopardy of going extinct if we don't stand up right now and do something. Because I'm telling you, if we implement this technology tomorrow, it's still going to take 30, 40, 50 years to clean up the environment. Now we are in a crisis. Let's go, and we're going to find out yet another crisis that we're facing that they generally don't tell us about. That can also be indirectly solved from what we're talking about. Go to the next slide. And oh, when I found this, I just chuckled. Look at that canary. But what I'm going to warn you about is the canary in the coal mine. And they say scientists say 80% of all the insects on the planet are dead because of pesticides, because of the water crisis that's changing the habitats, etc. Well, folks, if you know anything at all about the planet, there's a food chain, and it's very delicately balanced. And the very base of that food chain is insects. If the insects are gone, the bees in particular, we're not going to pollinate our food. And if the other animals don't have insects to eat, the food chain is done. But if we go to hydroponics, if we change our farming techniques, if we change our irrigation techniques, which are some of the things I'm going to talk about in part 2, we can address this problem as well. Because if we're irrigating with drip irrigation, if we're growing foods aquaponically, we have to use less pesticides, we use less water, the food is cleaner, it's healthier for us, healthier for the environment, healthier for the insects, and the planet can begin to restore itself. It can get well again. It's sick now, just like we are. So there's yet another lie that is threatening the existence of everybody on this planet. Let's go on, and we're going to figure out how crucial this is. Go to the next slide, if you would. So basically, I just want to point out, it all comes down to water, and it comes down to having to have free energy. The rivers and lakes and aquifers are rapidly drying up, so the oceans are overheating, and we're facing the planet's 6th mass extinction, and we don't have any more time. If we don't do this now, it may be too late. And let's go on, and I'm going to give you a science lesson in the next slide. If you go on. Okay, this is the basis of the technology that I'm telling you we can have. We will never have to draw water from an aquifer, or a river, or a lake again. Listen to what the scientists say. For every degree of temperature increase, and our temperatures are rising, right? 7% more water is evaporated from the oceans and available in the sky. We have technology right in your refrigerator, right in your house, in a dehumidifier that can solve this problem. We have the ability to, but we couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't tell you about it because without free energy, it's not practical. We can build massive, massive machinery that can pull unbelievable amounts of water from the atmosphere any place on the planet, in the middle of a desert, anywhere. And we can build massive domes and have hydroponics in the deepest, darkest deserts of the world and on the ice caps of the world. And we can regreen the planet. We can have drip irrigation. We can solve this crisis and save the planet. And we will have look at the bottom. So there is an absolutely no way we can ever run out of water in the atmosphere. Listen, it is a super sustainable, totally non-polluting system that will clean those microparticles out of the ocean, causing the ocean to once again become an air conditioner instead of a heater. In the process, here's what happens. Every drop of water that evaporates from the ocean must have a nanoparticle at the center of it. That's going to be our smog and our dirt and our plastic that's going to be sucked up into the air. We're going to filter that out as we reclaim this water, and we're going to clean our oceans. We're going to clean our water, and over time, we're going to clean our land, and we're going to save our planet. We have the technology to do it. There are at least a half a dozen free energy patents out there that can be used for this application and other applications. Folks, if we don't stand up, we're not going to have a planet, and your children aren't going to have a planet to live in when they go to the next, whatever. Let's go on, and I'm going to show you just how simple this is. What you're looking at on the next slide.
Can I make a comment? Can I make a comment on
the
sure atmospheric water? I've known about this technology for the latter part of 25, 30 years. This is not new. It's been around for a long time. Dehumidifiers have
Mhm,
been around for a long time. Air conditioning has been around for a long time, and they all suck water out of the atmosphere. And what does the
mhm,
air conditioning do? It dumps it right back into the ground, right? Instead of
mhm.
capturing it, recycling it so that you could use it, which is what you're talking about. I've been in touch with companies who are in touch with our armed forces that can create machines that are so large that one machine can create 50 to 100,000 gallons of water per day. Absolutely
Yep.
correct, Larry. The problem would be solved on a massive scale and it would balance things out. Absolutely. Let's go to the next slide.
And it goes further than that, Mel, because
Yeah.
that technology, the reason we got it, it wasn't threatening to them. They didn't think of it as a refrigerator or a dehumidifier that was something that threatened their energy component. But now when you tie it to free energy, all of a sudden it does. But there's
Yes.
another aspect to that. We have to have those machines in every home on the planet. You can have them in Africa. You can have them in the sub-Sahara. You don't need electricity. So we can be pulling water out of the atmosphere, and every person here can have a garden if they want to have it. Everything changes. We have clean water, and we're massively, massively, massively cleaning this earth. So that's what this system looks like. And it's just basically a, a dehumidifier on steroids, and it's running on 0 point energy that is totally non-polluting, that scrubs the pollutants out of the environment, cleans the earth, gives us the water we need, gets rid of the microplastic particles, and restores the ecological balance of the planet. It will save this planet and give us clean, sustainable water. Down below, you see a mesh. Now, that also will give us water, but minute amounts. We have to have the technology you see in the picture above, and it has to be coupled with totally free, non-polluting solutions. Let's go on.
Yeah.
We've had this technology. Go
Yeah, I
ahead,
would
please.
like to bring Patrick Riley into the mix at some point because he was at the Quantum Summit Part One in Cape Canaveral on June 8th and 9th, and you saw the presentation he did with where he basically gave us the plans to build three different motors, and for those people that are mechanically inclined, that know how to turn wrenches, what have you, you could build this in your own garage. But I want to do is I want to take it one step further with him and you where he actually does a series of videos explaining literally in layman's terms how to build this and literally with a step-by-step plan in the garage where we have a finished product that works, that produces free energy technology so that the average Joe Blow who's maybe not so mechanically inclined says, I could do that, and it encourages people to start doing it. That's how we push the envelope. Please go on.
All right, I want to go back to what you said.
Yes.
What you've just done, talked about, is what he's done. Basically, all the people who brought out the technologies that I was talking about, either they were bought and shelved, the patents, they were determined to be against national security and taken off the market, or the people were killed. So
Correct.
what he has done is he is releasing this information to the internet. And once it gets out and once people learn how to do it, you're not going to cut that tube of toothpaste back together again. We're going to have it. But I'm excited because that's just one technology. There are 6,000 technologies. And with what happened with the Chevron decision, we will have to make lawsuits, but we will be able to sue the corporations, and we will be able to break those regulations that are keeping us from getting that technology. So we've already got a piece of it out there, but now we're going to get access to potentially 6,000 patents. The only thing I want to talk about on this slide is I want to read you the quote from Nikola Tesla, which is absolutely true. Electric power is everywhere. It's in the ground. The earth itself is a generator. It creates standing wave electricity. That was the basis of his Warcliffe Tower. The ether in the atmosphere is full of various frequencies that are bouncing up against one another. And just think about lightning. When particles of lightning in the air rub together, it creates lightning. So we've got natural physics processes that, with no pollution whatsoever, create an inexhaustible amount of solution. So Nikola Tesla says, electric power is everywhere, present in unlimited quantities. and can drive the world's machinery without the need for coal or oil or gas or any other of the common, and I'm going to add, polluting technologies that are killing this planet and keeping humanity in poverty. And I'm going to talk about one bullet point on the other side. If we get that free technology, go back and think about what I said a minute ago, how the cost of everything drops by 40, 50, 60, 70%. And we go from an economic system of hoarding and of lack to one of plenty and prosperity. And think about what that does when we can equalize and elevate the economic condition of all mankind. The whole cause of war and strife and social disorder is gone. We're not only going to have money, but we're going to have a world where we learn to live in peace and prosperity and capture the abundance that God has given us. This is the key to the future. We're just wrapping this up.
Yeah,
So
I want
basically,
to
be
add
sure
one
to
more.
come
I
and
want to
see us
add one
next
more
time.
thing. Yeah, I want to add one
Sure.
more thing regarding Patrick Riley. He gave this to the world. It was streamed live on the internet. Hundreds and hundreds of people were
Yep.
tuned in, okay, from all over the world that saw this. It was completely free of charge, completely free of charge. Yes, you got to go buy your parts. You got to go. I'm sure you guys have some tools in the garage and you could slap this together. But I still want him to make a part 1, 2, 3 series on how to build it in your garage. Motor number 1, motor number 2, motor number 3. I want to push the envelope. And also, Larry, with all due respect, remind me at the end of your presentation, I'm going to have a 1-minute video clip, okay, of this guy, Patrick from Valuetainment, which I adore. I love Patrick, okay? And he talks specifically about the 6,000 patents. I think we're going to end this presentation with a bang by showing that 1-minute video.
Okay, let's go on. All I want to do now is just show people where this information came from and encourage them. Go educate yourself. So if you go down to the next slide, that just says tune in next time. Go down, there's I think 4 more slides. So most of this information comes from 2 videos, documentaries that I'd like you to watch. Now, you're not going to get this kind of information out of those because what I do, people just basically give data dumps where they tell you information. I'm going in and looking at the science. I'm looking at this from a number of different viewpoints. I'm adding value that tells you how those technologies can be implemented in order to solve and provide solutions to the very critical things we're facing. But I want you to see those videos. So if you'll pass on down, you'll see the names of those videos and the links. I encourage you to go look at them. So if you'll go to the next slide. All right, the one is from Tesla. There's a link in there. Go to the next one. That's talking about free energy. Go to the next one. And that's talking about the lost century. That's all of the 6,000 patents that have been suppressed that we are potentially about to get access to because of the Chevron deal and the implications for us to sue these corporations and break the power of the energy industry. 2 more slides. I want to give credit to the lady that helps me clean these up. And then one last slide. I really encourage you folks, it's time to go to battle. It's time to put your armor on. I ask you to do 2 things. Make this video go viral so we can get more people and to join our army. And you do need to know the kind of stuff that I have in my book because knowledge is power. God is going to open us up and we can't fight if we don't know what it is that we have to fight with. So you need the weapons. I encourage you, disseminate this to everybody. Buy that book. There's a second one coming out, and please join us for part 2 of this presentation. Now to your 3-minute video.
Yes. Now, guys, I just want to make it completely clear, okay? I'm not in the book business. Larry, we need to support him. So go out and get his book and tell everybody about this presentation. Make sure everybody buys his book. We got to support the right people in order for the right stuff to happen.
There, in the future, as we go into NESARA, something else is going to happen. We're going to have to take away control of the corporations. And what we're going to have to do is not let individual corporations control technology. We're going to have cooperative international research centers that do the most important research in the world that relates to energy and climate. and then share that technology with every nation in the world. That's how important what we're talking about here is.
Yeah, I'm going to actually play two videos because I came across a second video, which is also very, very short, like 40 seconds, which I think is so impactful. This is the video I'm talking about.
Next one's going to be a little bit weird. You may even pause the video to want to Google this to say, this can't be right. In 1951, the U.S. enacted the Invention Secrecy Act. What is that? Allows the government to legally classify and keep certain inventions secret if deemed a threat to national economy or security. What could be a threat to national economy? If you're able to figure something out that's 220 miles per gallon, you think it affects the oil industry a little bit? Maybe. Inventions under a secrecy order cannot be discussed, exported, or sold outside of military channels. Violations of secrecy order can result in imprisonment for the inventor. Over 6,000 patents today are kept by the U.S. government in secret. They didn't allow the people to go out there and sell it. I wonder what those 6,000 patents are. A lot of people want to be like, when you become a president, I want to go to Area 51. A lot of us capitalists want to find out what these 6,000 patents are.
Okay, you see, he pushes the envelope in a very delicate way. And what I mean by that, he says, what if somebody has a carburetor that could do 220 miles per gallon? If you don't think that Patrick doesn't know about, free energy technology, reverse osmosis of the water, production of water from the atmosphere, you will be making a very big mistake. And I got an igloo I'd like to sell you here in Cape Canaveral. Okay, so let's go down to the last video, because this is everything right here. This is everything.
What is your price? Is it 10 million? Is it 20 million? Is it 100 million? What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale. If your price is not your life, then you are for sale. So if you're going to be a truth teller, your price has to be your life. I can't surround myself with people whose price is not their life, because the enemy, whatever the enemy is, whether it be physical, legal, spiritual, will attack the vulnerability of the person who can be compromised. So you get real spiritual real fast if you're going to do this type of work.
If you're going to be a truth teller, the price has to be your life. You're not for sale, not for even 100 billion. You follow? That is powerful. Is that powerful, or is that powerful?
That's powerful.
I'm not sharing anymore, correct?
No, you're not.
Okay.
And now, just so you know, when we get into part 2 of this, we'll be covering the same thing that he was talking about as far as the 1951 Patent Act. So I want to close by telling you that relates to the Chevron deal. That's how we get access to free all those patents up. We have to sue those corporations one at a time, but now we have the ability. The door is wide open. The barn door is open. Kim Clement, my favorite prophet in the whole world, said, we will have free energy. And Donald Trump, who likes to give us breadcrumbs, also said, we will have free energy. And Nikola Tesla said, we have free energy. And so did the man you just talked about. All we have to do is get access to it. The technology exists, and we now have a legal means to get to it. The world is about to change in absolutely, unbelievably positive ways.
Yeah, I totally agree. But it's going to take real men and real women to stand up. And, look, they're running for their life. There's going to be this biggest transference of wealth. But, I always say, what good is all the money on earth if the system, the environment that is here keeps us sick and dying by the, 90, 95. If you're lucky, you get to live to be 80, 85 usually. That's lucky. If you get to live at 90, 95, you cheated the system that we're currently in right now by 5 to 10 years. Because by 85, most people are gone. Okay? We're talking about cleaning the atmosphere. We're talking about bringing in technologies that defy logic and common sense based on what you learned in the Matrix, which we're about to flush down the toilet. And it's never going to come back again. We're going into a new world. And if you can't see it, I feel very sorry for you. That is your problem, Not my problem, because Larry sees the same world I'm seeing, and it's coming. Someone's going to lose. Someone's going to win. The spoils of war will go to the victor. There'll be a time where you're going to come to the Mel Carmine and Larry Ballard show when we win the war and we take over the YouTubes and the Rumbles and the Instagrams and the Facebooks, and the algorithms are fair. Fair, what do I mean by fair? Fair, I mean by the Mel Carmine should be able to grow to his fullest potential with unimpeded obstacles in the way that are artificially imposed by a system that is trying to control every aspect of our life. They're trying to control your money. They're trying to control your wealth. They're trying to control your health. They're trying to control the quality of air you breathe. They're trying to control what products you're ingesting. It's all about to change, folks. Get with the program. Get educated. Instead of making fun of us, get educated. Go to QFS1776.com. Find out this quantum financial system that's coming. Find out about Nasara Jasara flat tax. Find out about the 6,000 patents that Patrick is talking about. Instead of making fun of us. Don't make fun of us. We're onto something that is really not a big secret. They've been trying to push Nasara Jasara since the 50s, before I was even born. But now, because of people like Larry and myself and millions of others, and I always try to inspire you, get a microphone. We're not in competition with you. Help us. We need soldiers on the battlefield talking truth. Soldiers that are not for sale. Now, if you like this content as much as I like this, I love working with Larry. Larry and I are going to go for a long time. And yes, the med beds are going to get here. There's another word for the something chambers, crystalline chambers, which is even more advanced than the med bed. It's going to get here. We're going to get. That's why they don't want Donald Trump to come back. Donald Trump is the biggest FU card the system is ever going to see, because even though, look, I'm gonna make a comparison and then we're gonna close it out. George Soros, he spends billions of dollars fighting all of us. And when he runs out of money, he just calls the system, the evil system that he works for, and they replenish that money. Why? Because they know that he will religiously spend that money to continuously mess with us. Right? Donald Trump has spent $4 billion of his own money fighting for all of us. I haven't seen anybody replenish his money. That's why I'm behind him. That's why Larry is behind him. That's why millions of people, that's why he flies into a city and there's 80,000 people waiting for him to talk. Even though the speech sounds like a broken record, and we all know it by heart by now, but it's the truth. We want to hear the truth. We want you folks to get behind us. We want you folks to get educated and stop arguing about JFK Jr. is still alive and Sammy Davis Jr. is still alive. Whether they are alive or they are dead, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change your lifestyle one way or the other. They want you guys fighting about who's dead or alive. I'll tell you who is alive. Larry Ballard and Mel Carmine were definitely alive. And we're here fighting for you, and we need you to fight for us. Now get your fingers moving. Let's kick the shit out of these algorithms. Thank you. We'll catch you on the next one. Hello, folks. My name is Mel Carmine, and we are right in the middle of a tectonic shift, the biggest wealth transfer that is going to hit this entire planet like a tsunami on steroids. This will never happen again, at least not in our lifetime. Many of you still have the opportunity to get in right now. Joining our Telegram group is perhaps the smartest thing you'll ever do, and it won't cost you a single dime. We have tens of thousands of patriots waiting for you, and they'll take you by the hand to teach you the ropes so that you don't get slaughtered. Not the global reset. This is not the global reset, but rather the quantum financial system reset, the one that's attached to Nasara Jasara. It's coming at us at 800 miles an hour. The question is, are you ready? Are you in position to receive wealth beyond your wildest dreams? There are 6 to 8 tokens that are going to completely and entirely dominate this landscape. And no, it's not Bitcoin or Ethereum. Join our Telegram group today, and don't forget to visit the Quantum Financial Systems Manual at QFS1776.com